I got a question for you this Monday morning. I go to a restaurant, I order a bowl of soup. There is a giant fly in my soup. I say, waiter, there is a fly in my soup. What is better customer service? The waiter comes, replaces my soup almost instantly with a new, fresh, hot bowl of soup, comps the meal, and gives me a complimentary house bottle of wine. Or there was never a fly in my soup to begin with. What's better customer service? Let's talk about that today. What's up? It's Monday. That means it's Spicy Monday. I've been seeing more of you post your spicy thoughts or your thoughts that are spicy. Don't forget our hashtag Spicy Monday. I love it. We're going to talk today about projects, a lack of profitability in projects, and how that all connects back to the customer service trap that I hopefully tricked all of you into falling into at the beginning of this video. Let's get into it. When I say good customer service, just to clarify a couple definitions. I do not mean a quality experience and delivery for your client. You should definitely be doing that at all times, no matter what. Don't deviate from that. And I'm also not talking about Henry Ford style. If the customer wants to buy an ugly looking car in an ugly color, let them buy it. Not those kinds. What I mean is the reactive customer service that so many of us fall back on as a defense mechanism to excuse having a shitty business, where we will take a situation that we have been reactively made aware of, that we then scramble to overcome in a way that will make our client say, wow, I am so glad. MSP, I am so glad I contracted you. That kind of customer service, which we tend to, in this space, equate to other industries where we see this done much more impressively, and we don't really we kind of miss the connections here, and we've talked about before, like the Disney experience. You go to a Disney resort and everybody is just dialed in perfectly. That kind of customer service. And as service-based businesses, right, MSP, delivering all you can eat service or time and material service, we so often find ourselves in situations where we talk about delivering better customer service, or how we overcame something with customer service, or how we sell with customer service. We talk about that at my day job at Help. We talk about how, we use quality customer service to help build the brand. And I am here to say, I don't think any of that shit has any place in a project. And if you're doing any of that in your project, that is why you're not making money in your projects, everybody. Thank you for coming to my video. Have a great Monday. But let's talk about it. Long time ago, in a different industry, I worked for a company that was really trying to shift the way that people bought and consumed high-end audiovisual and automation equipment. This is early 2000s. And one of the things this company started doing around that time was they really started changing the way that custom home theater stuff was installed, configured, sold to the client. They were trying to pivot from the old contractor style of like think about like a kitchen. Like you work with a kitchen planner, they build the layout, make the drawings and everything. And then everything between that and the finish is sort of left to the judgment of the installer, and the quality of the individual installer or contractor or craftsman would have somewhat of a significant impact on the finished product. They were trying to eliminate that variable by going in and completely standardizing the way that projects were tackled from the ground up, but while yet still making them custom. And the way they arrived at this was with this thing they called total solution selling. And the idea was, if you came in and you had a project you wanted done, we would not just scope what was necessary to do the project. We would take the time to figure out and determine the actual experience you wanted to have when you were done, and we would design 100% of everything, every variable that was necessary to achieve that experience, whether that was from us, from another contractor, or did not yet exist in this material plane of existence. All of that, I'm being serious, like even if physics said it wasn't possible, all of that would get listed out. And from that, you would have a very tight project plan, a very tight list of assumptions, a very tight list of subcontractor work, and then things that just weren't possible, and workarounds that would be hopefully arrived at before the project started. And the idea was that once this project started, the part where you as the client get to have input ceases. You're done. No more talkie, no more change, no more input. There was no change control because no change was allowed for. And the spirit of this was not draconian, you're not allowed to have an opinion. It was, we've thought of every variable so well ahead of time, we shouldn't need your input. Now, it kind of worked. It was mostly, it was say like 85% worked. But the idea here that I think we can all take home was this idea of actually making an honest effort to attempt to map out the entirety of the project, the assumptions, everything that could go wrong, every decision that might need to be made along the way, and having all of that planned out ahead of time. Because when you do that, you won't get it perfect, but when you do that, you eliminate the need to react to change during the project, which means that you eliminate the excuse that reacting to those unplanned changes is customer service. And all of you, because I know all of you, will tell me that your customer service first organization, it's a trap. And so you all use that as an excuse to justify basically just this endless pit of reactive work anytime you drop the ball and didn't plan properly for something. Dean said it. And that endless pit is what makes your projects not profitable. I'm assuming in this video that all of you are competent sales engineers who are capable of doing the basics to scope out the hardware and labor that it takes your company to install a box. If you're still struggling with that, well, there you go. That's why you're not profitable. But assuming that you are capable of picking the right workstations, the right Dell server, the right switch, the right cables, I'm assuming most of you can do that. And I'm assuming most of you are not grossly underestimating how much time it's going to take you to execute your projects, but yet you're still not making 65, 75% margins on these things. Why is it? I bet it's because if we go back through that project and we look through the project plan or whatever ticket, whatever notepad, however you're managing it, I bet there's this whole slop area of stuff that didn't go as quickly or as efficiently as it should have, or got added on, or just weaseled its way in there, that was all hand waved away under the guise of good customer service, that if we had done a slightly better job planning out everything that would be required for the client to have the experience they wanted, we could have avoided. So you might be saying to me, well, Dean, I don't need any of that because I have a robust change control process. And to you person, I would say, hey, that's the right answer. Good for you. You read your textbook. But that's the thing. Like, no, you don't. I know some of you have robust change control processes in, but that shit goes out the window the minute a good paying client, one of your A or B clients, really says they want something, and they call the account manager and explain the challenge, and the account manager says, oh, we didn't scope for it, and the client says, well, I mean, I didn't scope for it, you're the experts, can't you just do it anyways? And now you add on another 12 hours and maybe some licensing, who the fuck knows. But the point is, this industry in general, as a service first industry, is never going to be great at change control. So change control needs to be your backstop, not the primary method by which you make your projects profitable with. It just can't be, because none of you are wired to be good. Here's what change control requires. No, we're not going to do it. Find me an MSP that 100% of the time everybody on the team confidently and capably is going to say that, and I haven't met one. And if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, that's my MSP. No, it's not. You're lying to me and yourself. You absolutely would not say no like that. You might attempt a very weak no, but you'd still say yes. I would say yes. I'm a jerk, and I would still say yes. And we're all in this space because we like helping people. So the whole point here of this is not to put yourself in a position where, even if you did have a change control process, which you probably don't, that you have to rely on that as your primary method. Think of that if this is a castle, the change control process is the innermost wall. It has not been maintained for 800 years. People are living in it. We really don't want people attacking it. Let's hope they don't get there. It's not going to hold out. So we really want to focus on the scoping of the project. And are we accounting for everything required to deliver not the technical requirements of the project? Because I bet you did a good job with that. You're not dumb. You know what nuts and bolts and wires something takes. All of the details required to arrive at the end experience. And if you do not know what that end experience is, my friends, you are not ready to be selling a project for this. And that is the other reason why your projects are not profitable. I've talked about this in other videos in the past, that you really do need to have a pickle policy. You need to be very much like the fast food vendor in that example, Burger King, where you get a burger, it comes with pickles. You can ask for more pickles, you can ask for no pickles, you can ask for only pickles, you can ask for never has a pickle touched any surface this burger will be made in. You may ask for these things, they will try to accommodate it, but in the absence of you asking for it, every burger comes with pickles. Your projects really need to be delivered in that same way. There needs to be an exact same way every project is delivered that returns a defined experience. And when the end user wants an experience that is slightly different than that, you cannot just go and sell the same project. So if somebody comes in and they say, I don't want a burger patty, I just want pickles, you cannot go pull the project plan for the burger with pickles and sell them that and just scribble out the part with burger and write all pickles, because that's a different experience than that original plan was designed for, right? You need to adapt that experience, make sure that you're getting them the proper pile of pickles on their plate. That's a good alliteration. Get the point here. If you're not that dialed in, which I think is how most of my audience would not be that dialed in, then it's super important that you qualify exactly what the point of this project is. And while your project should have an assumption section, this is not the time to assume. You need to figure out what the end user's intended experience is. And if they don't know, you need to spin that story for them, and you need to sell them on it, and you need to make sure that they understand the experience, they are on the same page as you. And yes, you do need to get specific and very petty. I will bring it back to the example I started this with, home theater stuff. That means that if you didn't cover if the wires are going to be hidden or not, or the speakers are going to be in the wall or on the wall, you need to cover all of that ahead of time. And you need to cover that from the standpoint of an experience-based story. You cannot just say these are in-wall speakers on the invoice and assume the client has read that and understands what that means. You need to be putting in the project outline that with this home theater setup, you will walk in the room and the speakers are invisible. They are integrated with the wall. You will not see them. They will be custom painted. And only if you go searching with a flashlight will you be able to actually find where the speakers are. That is the experience we are delivering you. And the reason why having that level of clarity on the experience is important, not on the technical details of what widgets, is when I get to your house, I am cutting into the walls and I find that one of those in-wall speakers that can fit in the wall there is over a double sill window. That requires trenching in order to hide those wires, because the original experience said that speaker would be invisible, not just in the wall. There's a difference. So now I need to trench your wall out in order to get the wires such that it will actually be invisible. And that may not have been agreed to in the original project. And this is where the MSP falls apart, because normally you're then either going to just offer to do it for no additional charge, offer to do it for an additional charge because you do have some sort of change control, but you didn't account for this. So now not every other variable is dialed in, or you're going to try to come up with a creative solution or workaround that's something else. All of those things in the moment are great, good for you, but none of those things are the experience that you originally agreed to. So when you're done and you've spent a lot more resources and time and materials, regardless of outcome, that the project wasn't initially designed to absorb, you're definitely not making profit anymore. And more importantly, because I know, as I said at the beginning, you're all customer service focused organizations, your client's not going to be as happy as they could have been. They might be okay with it, but I'll tell you right now, if you had sold me invisible speakers and you did manage to get that done, but you had to trench out my entire wall and then rough patch it and sand it, and then somebody had to come back 2 weeks later to prime and paint it and, level the drywall out and whatnot, that wasn't what I had in mind. Yeah, the end result got there, and maybe I didn't have to pay any more for it, but I wasn't really planning for that. And I'm going to tell everyone that story about how when my home theater company came by and they said they were going to install, in-wall invisible speakers, they ended up having to trench out the whole wall, and what an ordeal. And I may still be satisfied, but the implication is kind of crazy they couldn't have figured that out ahead of time. So even when you win, you don't win in this scenario, my friends, which is why it is super important to qualify exactly what the end experience is going to be, and you iron out those variables ahead of time. And all of this goes in your project scope. And I'll leave you with a final thought. If we accept for a minute that you have properly scoped the project, you focused on the end experience, and the project plan really does encompass everything needed to arrive at that experience, and also has reasonable assumptions in it and areas of things that you just genuinely cannot deliver, or other things where a third party has to be made cooperative in order to deliver. You've done it. You made the perfect project plan. I have a feeling there's going to be cases where that ends up being more money upfront to sell than you're comfortable with. And that's probably why some of you don't bother doing this, even though I think you're totally capable of doing it, because you're not very comfortable at selling. But here's the thing. Project costs what it costs. Someone has to pay for it. If the client doesn't pay for it, then you pay for it out of your pocket. And you can pat yourself on the back as much as you want and say that you're doing that in the spirit of good customer service. But the value from that, if any, is fleeting and is not going to hang around for very long, and certainly isn't going to result in any sort of net promotion or anything like that. So if the objection is simply that it's too much money and your client wouldn't pay for it, then your client isn't fit for that solution. And your job isn't to come up with the cheapest solution you can deliver that is a fit for their wallet. That's not your job. That's not good customer service. Your job is to present the best possible expression of your capability to support their needs. And if that's not a match, then you don't deliver it. So I go back to what I asked when this video started. In the context of a project, that is an experience with a scope. Is it good customer service that my soup came out, had a fly in it, and they went above and beyond to fix the fly? Or would better customer service have been no fly to begin with, since that wasn't part of the experience? If you charge a higher amount for a project than you normally would, you sell that ahead of time, which is how I think you should be selling projects anyways, and you get to the end and you didn't need all that time, you don't have to keep all that money. I know that's kind of a wild thought, but let's say you sell a project and you finish it and you're well above your target margin because you sold additional contingencies and labor for things that could go wrong or might need to happen, and they didn't happen, or you came in well under budget. You could give your client a check for some of that difference. Have you thought of that? I mean, has that occurred to you that once you collect money, you can give some of it back? And that's a way better position to be in if your goals are customer service, happy client, net promoter, and feeling uncomfortable about charging too much for something. Charge the right amount, do it better than you thought you could, look at the excess left over, cut out the healthy profit for yourself, and then that remaining cash, cut a check, give it back to your client. I mean, even if it was $200, when's the last time you had a professional service provider turn around and say, hey, you know what? We thought it was going to cost XYZ. We delivered it perfectly. We both agreed it was amazing. We went through afterwards and realized we had a slight budget surplus here. We're going to refund you some of that. When's the last time that happened to you? So if that's the only reason that you're not selling projects because you feel like your client can't afford it or you're uncomfortable charging that much, fix it after the sale by delivering it so freaking fantastically, since I know you can, that you actually have excess money where you can refund some back to your client. But don't take a loss because you couldn't plan properly and now you're excusing it as good customer service. Make projects profitable again, everybody. Have a great Monday.